our first Unify webinar of the year. We are really glad you are here. As we go through the session, please feel free to drop your questions into the chat. We will be monitoring them through, and we are going to make sure we are going to address them during the discussion and at the end. I want this session to be as much interactive as possible because your questions onto this topic will be even more valuable. Today it's from certifications to real world capability. And let me start with something slightly uncomfortable. Over the past few years, we have seen LinkedIn flooded with posts like, I have passed 5 certifications in 3 months, 2 months, 1 month, another batch unlocked, next one coming soon. And don't get me wrong, certifications are valuable. I hold many myself. I do believe in them, but here is the real question: are we building badges or are we building capability? So today is not about dismissing certifications; it's about reframing them. This session it's about cutting through the noise and talking about what actually matters in 2026. Can you design systems that scale? Can you debug under pressure? Can you deliver something that the business trusts? Because that's the difference between a certification and capability. And that's the difference that we are going to explore today. I'm Bianca, CTO at Unify, and I have today with me Raman Gupta, our head of architecture. Just a quick note before we dive in onto the topic, we might slightly exceed the allocated time today. We are not only going to explain the certification landscape, but we are going to provide you also with a practical guide on how to approach it properly, what we believe is properly. We will keep this quite focused and valuable, and of course, you are free to stay as long as you find it useful for yourself. Just a quick word about Unify. We are proud to be both a Databricks partner and the organizer behind this user group. At Unify, we focused 100% on Databricks. We build accelerators, training programs, managed service that simplify complex data and AI transformations from Unity catalog deployments and building pipelines to all AI-powered analytics. And this session is part of our mission. Saying that, we are going to start. Why this conversation now? Data and AI in 2026 looks very different from 2016 and even 2010. Now it's infrastructure, AI is embedded in decisions, platforms are operational systems. And skills gap are no longer annoying, they are quite risky. This is not about staying relevant, it's about staying employable from my perspective, it's about keeping your team credible, it's about protecting the business from making expensive mistakes. Early in the year, right now, we are in February, it's the perfect time to pause and ask, are my skills aligned with where data and AI is heading, or I'm optimizing for yesterday problems? Because the speed of change is not slowing down, and we can see where Databricks is today and all the releases that are happening. Scaling used to be personal growth, now it's actual organizational resilience. Engineers are no longer just pipeline builders, they are platform owners. Teams are not just task executors, they are capability builders. Leaders are no longer just sponsors, they are stewards of trust, because with AI, when it's embedded into the business decision, the trust becomes everything. If your team doesn't understand governance, cost control, ML workflows, and your platform behavior, that's not just a skill issue, that's a business risk. So this is not about learning for fun, it's about learning because the environment demands it. Now, let's talk honestly about where things go wrong. I see four common patterns. First, chasing certifications without context. People decide I need this badge, this certification without asking why. Second, memorizing answers instead of understanding the systems. That works until it doesn't. Third, no real environments to practice in. You cannot learn database just theoretically. You must break things. And fourth, burnout. Speed running exams, stacking pressure, treating learning like a race. And here is the actual problem. Certifications end up being done to people instead of done with learning. And when that happens, the knowledge evaporates actually within weeks. You are going to forget very soon what you have actually learned for if you learn only for the certification. Okay, so let's talk more about the Databricks certifications and understand the Databricks certification journey. So first of all, I want to express that these certifications are not levels in video game. They represent different stages of thinking. You don't need to have all of them. Okay, so let's start with the foundation. The data engineer associate, because most journeys begin here. The data engineer associate is where you learn to think in the language of the lakehouse. You understand the medallion architecture, the delta tables, the batch versus streaming, the basic optimization, core Spark concepts. This certification is about understanding the platform correctly, and I put the emphasis onto the understanding. This is not about complexity, it's about clarity. If you don't understand how data flows from bronze to gold, everything else becomes actually fragile. This is your foundation. Data engineer professional, this is where things now change. The data engineer professional assumes you have built things. It is the architecture trade-offs, performance tuning, CI/CD patterns, governance decision, production level thinking. This is not can you write SQL. This is can you design something that don't break at 3 a.m. and you need to get up of the bed to fix it. Professional level means ownership. You are no longer a builder, you are accountable. The alternative path is data analyst associate. There is no professional for the data analyst. The data analyst certification is different. It focuses on SQL fluency, on query optimization. Why I say this? Because it is correlated with the BI integration and delivering insight. And this has been changed into the last 6 months with ABG. This role is about turning curated data into decisions. It's less about the infrastructure. It's more about the storytelling with data. But here is the key. Even analysts today need platform awareness because AI-powered analytics changes how insight is consumed. The next one, why is not working? It is the specialist route, the Spark developer, and my screen is not showing it. My animation is stuck. Okay, you should be able to see it now to the screen.
Yeah.
Thank you. The Spark Developer Associate is technical and precise. It focuses on Spark APIs, on data frame transformations, on execution behavior, distributed computing logic. This is for engineers who want to understand the engine itself. It's less about architecture. It's more about how Spark actually runs under the hood. If you enjoy understanding execution plans and optimization deeply, this is your space. Entering the machine learning landscape, we have the machine learning associate. Now we moved on to applied AI. The machine learning associate is about feature engineering, ML pipelines, basic model development, ML flow tracking, deployment concepts. This is where SQL is no longer enough. You need PySpark, you need ML flow, you need to think about life cycle. It's applied machine learning. It's practical, it's production aware. The machine learning professional is a completely different mindset. It assumes that you understand experimentation, you understand model governance, you understand scaling, and you understand failure scenarios. Of course, everything into the context of machine learning. This certification is about production ML systems. It's not can you train a model, it's can you build an ML system that business can rely on. So it's a huge shift. The new frontier is the generative AI engineer. This is the newest one. The generative AI engineer associate reflects where the platform is going on. So it focuses on LLM integration, on retrieval augmented generation, model serving, prompt engineering patterns, AI system safety. So this is not about classical ML. It's about orchestrating AI systems responsibly. And here is the most important part. Without strong data engineering foundations, GenAI becomes actually a chaos. This is why foundations matter so much. We do have something else in here that I have added. Let's step away from exams and to look at the special badges, because these ones don't require actually to sit the exam. The champion program is not about passing tests. This program recognizes the deep technical expertise. It's about community contribution, delivery impact. It's about mentorship as well. So you don't apply by memorizing, you apply by contributing, writing, speaking, helping others, building accelerators, sharing the knowledge. This is influence. And we do have also the MVP recognition. I'm happy to say that I have now this. It was awarded to me earlier into January. This is not a certification. This is not an exam. It is just a recognition from Databricks for sustained contribution, thought leadership, real world impact, community growth. So it reflects not just technical ability. I will argue that you still need this, but it's about the ecosystem impact. So it's not so much about how much you know, it's about how much you enable others. I want us to look at the bigger picture of what we have in front of us, because these are not the levels of superiority what we have in here. They are different lenses. Each certification represents a different way of thinking: data flow, architecture, analytics, engine behavior, ML systems, AI orchestration, community leadership. And the real goal is not to collect them, is to evolve. Because the strongest engineers that I know, they are not the one with the most badges, are the ones who actually build resilient systems, deliver trusted solutions, mentor others, connect tech to the business value. And if something that I will keep iterating through the session is that certifications open the door, but capability keeps them open. The doors are opened because of the capability. I want you to keep this in mind. So, what exams actually test? Let me share something that might surprise you. Most people think certifications exams test memory. They don't. They test thinking, and specifically, they test for things that go far beyond the syllabus. The first one is decision making. Exams are not asking, do you know this feature? They are asking, can you make the right choice under trade-offs? For example, you might see two technical correct answers. but one is more scalable, more cost efficient, more governed, more aligned with best practice. And that's what they are testing. In real life, engineering is not about knowing options. It's about choosing wisely when constraints exist: time, cost, performance, security. The exam reflects the reality. Second, platform behavior. The second thing exam test is whatever you understand how Databricks actually works under the hood, not just the UI, not just the syntax, but how Spark executes transformations, what happens when you cache, how Delta handles ACID transactions, how streaming checkpoints behave, how MLflow tracks experiments. Because if you don't understand the platform behavior, you can't debug properly and you can't design reliably. Memorizing knowledge breaks the moment something behaves unexpectedly. Understanding behavior is what is going to make you resilient. Pattern application is the third one that exam test. So exams don't reward the tool naming. They reward the pattern thinking. They test when to use the medallion architecture, when to choose batch versus streaming, when to choose autoloader, when to implement CI/CD, when to apply governance constraints. You might think that I'm referring to the data engineer path in here, but actually not. A lot of these concepts you are going to encounter also on the ML under the options onto the exam, but also onto the AI, because the governance is everywhere. How to promote code from dev to test to production is part of every single component. Back. So onto the test, you are not going to be asked, do you know what the Lakeflow declarative pipelines are? It's, do you know when and why to use it? And that difference is actually huge because mature engineers think in patterns, not in features. And this is also the transition that is most common into Databricks. If you have been an engineer for many years, but worked with other technologies, this transition it is going to be much easier for you. Why alternatives fail? This is one most candidates underestimate. The strongest candidates don't just know the right answer. They know why the other three are wrong. And Roman is going to show you mock-up exam questions, and it is going to explain. So I will leave it to him to go through that. But this is one of the deeper truths. Exams stimulate production thinking. They compress years of experience into structured scenarios. They force you to think like an architect, a platform owner, a responsible engineer. That's why shortcuts don't work at the professional level, because the exam is testing whatever you have built things, not if you have memorized slides. So when people ask me how do I pass, I don't just say do more mock-up exams. I say build something, break it, fix it, understanding, because once you understand how Databricks behaves, the exam is just a byproduct. And this is the mindset shift that we are aiming for. So when I talk about certifications, I don't see them as a finish line. I see them as a commitment. A commitment to structured learning, meaning that you have taken the time to understand the foundations properly, not just to pick up things randomly. A commitment to practice, because reading slide is not enough. You have to build, and I want to reiterate this. You need to build, test, break, and fix. And a commitment to accountability. Once you are certified, expectations change. You are trusted to make better decisions, so it is not about the collecting. It's about signalizing that you have taken your craft seriously. And this is where I want you to focus. So this is the part that really matters. The real end goal is not passing an exam, it's value delivery. Can you build reliable pipelines that don't collapse under scale? Can you design governed access that protects the organization? Can you deliver insights people trust, not question? Can you build AI systems that scale safely, not dangerously? Because no business has ever asked for a certificate. They ask for outcome, they ask for systems that work, decisions that they can trust, platforms that don't break. Certifications open the door, value delivery is what keeps you into the room. And this is the second time I am saying this. This slide captures the real shift happening in our industry. In the world, into the old world, data engineers were pipeline builders. We moved data, we fixed failures, we delivered data sets to BI, and that was enough. But into the new world, that is no longer sufficient. Now we design platforms, not just jobs. We govern by design, it's not an afterthought. We optimized cost scale because uncontrolled AI spend is a business risk. And most importantly, we enable AI. That's the shift from task execution to system thinking, from reacting, fixing to proactive design, from moving the data to shaping decisions. And certification should support this evolution, not to be a distract from it. I'm going to hand over now to Raman to take you on how to prepare for the certifications, more of a practical approach.
Thank you, Bianca. I will just start sharing my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes, I can see your screen.
Fabulous. So thank you, Bianca, for providing the details that about why certification, with certification, and the value which everyone should be focusing on. Okay, so if you're wondering, okay, where to start from, there are so many resources online. If you go, you may get confused. So, and it's overwhelming the amount of information which is available on the web. So here we are going to look at some of the, the resources, the best practices where you should go and practice. So we are going to look at the practical approach. Okay. So the first is where to begin. Now you want to start with an academy and then you go to the arena. Uh, what Databricks provides, the official resources that most of these courses are available free. So if you are not a Databricks partner, your company is not doing anything with the Databricks. So they have first thing as a Databricks Customer Academy. So you go to the Customer Academy, the link you can find it online, but these are very standard links. When you go there, you will see that you will be presented this Databricks Academy. On this particular academy, you will see the roles which are based on the learning path. So what Bianca showed earlier, the path for the data engineer, the data analyst, machine learning engineer, or the Gen AI, and even there are certain paths for pre-sales guys as well, where they can learn about the various products, various offering from Databricks. Okay, so that's the point you would start. Now, there are a number of courses, whichever course you choose, they will always start with the foundation one, such as Lakehouse, definition of it, okay? But then they will be going more into the details for the respective path you have chosen. So one advice there is just do not listen to those videos. If there are any practical, the exercises, please try those out. Please keep going to your Databricks account. I'll show you into the next slide. But the key point I want to focus on this Academy courses are there are a number of practical tutorials and examples. So please try those out in your own workspace. So this is the Academy where you go and log in and choose a path, what you want to start with, but then where you go and try this out. So Bianca mentioned multiple times, build, break, fix, and repeat. Now, where you would go. The good thing is Databricks has provided this free edition where you can log in with your personal ID or your official ID if you want to, but there is no restriction on it. You don't need to provide your credit card or any of the details. You just literally sign up to this one. You don't need to worry about the cloud account, etc. So what it offers is it provides you an access to this Databricks workspace, this interface, which is shown here as an example, and all of these functions are available, which means any of these academic training which you have started, which you are doing, you could go and start experimenting here. Okay, you start building the smallest task. You may start to see, okay, if there is a file you just want to read it, okay, how you do it. So you will obviously find certain examples onto the Academy page or onto the web, but unless you come and try it, you won't get a feel of it and real hang of it. So that's where the build, break, fix, and repeat you will continue to. Now, if you are ever stuck on this Databricks free edition, that how to write these lines. So Databricks also offers the Databricks AI Assistant, which is available throughout this Databricks workspace, which means if you are on a notebook or on a Python script where you're writing your code, this agent is available. You could always ask that how to read the CSV file or how to load the CSV file. It will really guide you even with the code. Now, this here is the thing. When you start with this agent, you can start is learning it as an or using it as an assistant for you. But the recommendation is do not just get that code from it and copy paste and start building on your notebooks, which is good starting point. But you should be understanding what this code is doing, why this code is doing, etc. That will give you a very strong foundation if you are looking to move towards the database engineering. Okay, or data engineering, I should say. So I'll go to the next slide. Now, the first job which you are going to build is going to fail. Okay, this is fine because that's where you get your first real lesson. You'll start learning why it is failing. You take help of the assistant of the web, try to debug yourself what's going wrong with it, whether it is not finding the path. It can be as simple as that error or something else, the syntax error, for example. Start doing it. Now, there is a hands-on launchpad. So once you have done those initial courses, you have learned it, there is a massive Databricks documentations available. So recommendation is you keep referring to those documents for every new feature which you are learning. But then there are huge number of tutorials which are available. And these tutorials, when you go to these tutorials, you will find there is a respective code is also provided to you. And when you are trying these out, again, you should not be simply copying pasting whatever those instructions say and just run it. Rather, you should be understanding what you are trying to do in each of these steps and what you are learning from it. Now, the classical example on this tutorial, they start with, okay, you have certain data, you just try to visualize it, okay? People might have done elsewhere, such as into traditional Excels or any other BI tools. But the most simple thing is you just get the data and then start building the pie chart against it or any other visualization which you are comfortable with. Okay. Then there are other tutorials such as you import CSV data from a notebook, which I spoke earlier. You create a table. The people who are having some experience on the SQL side or coming from the SQL background, they may be more comfortable starting with the SQL using creating a table, querying the data using the SQL warehouse available onto the Databricks. free edition, so you could do it. And then there are other advanced tutorials also available, including the AI and LLM, which you could try out. The good thing about the free edition is most of the features are available there. Okay, it is not that these features are stopped, which are not available on your free edition. You could literally try and build your agent, LLM agents into the free edition. You have your access to the SQL warehouse. You have access to your traditional pipeline or data pipeline which you want to build. So most of the features are available. What is perhaps not available onto the or the noticeable thing which is not available into the free edition, if you want to try out, the account level things such as the role setup, etc., that is not available because this is a single workspace where you have access to. So you may not be able to do the from one workspace to another workspace. Obviously, you can create another workspace account and do the try the delta sharing sort of a feature. So apart from the account admin features, most of these are available to you. And you will not have access to the underlying storage, for example. You won't be able to set up the buckets, etc. But the cloud admin and cloud infrastructure, except those, everything else is available. So all these features which you have to try out for your data engineering journey, data analyst journey, or the ML and AI, those are available here. So you should be trying it out, the hands-on approach. Now, the ecosystem beyond the Databricks, okay, Databricks workspace. So being a core data engineer myself, when I started my journey, obviously Databricks is a newer things which is available subsequently, but beyond that Databricks workspace, for a strong data engineer or analyst, you need the foundation, okay? And what that foundation is, you must understand or trying to spend more time onto certain languages. Now, Python is obviously a core data engineering language, but these language, when I say these are the PySpark, because that's where the Databricks uses the Spark cluster. So you have a PySpark, or you could write your code into SQL. So Databricks offers you both of those. Pandas is the usual library which you will use for any data manipulation or the data operations which you want to do. So spend some time on these big three, try out the code snippets which you want to build, how you want to process the data, because most of your data pipelines are built using SQL or PySpark. Okay. The cloud essential, I just touched base earlier. So wherever your data, you're storing your data, so you need the certain storage, the IAM, what are the permissions, the roles which you need, what compute is being used. Now that is very much, you can't access directly from that free workspace, but these cloud essentials in general, learning about these is really, really important for your long-term goal. The storage layer. So in the Databricks, things the data is stored into the Delta Lake. Now, if you are new to it, you may be hearing this for the first time, and you may think that, okay, should I really care about how the data is stored? I think knowing more deeper into the Delta Lake, that will give you a right foundation in terms of how these transaction logs, the ACID operations, which is used to be a property of the traditional RDBMS, that is available to you. And then for your longer run, there are certain design aspects. You will be looking at the data modeling. So if you are creating the table, what table primary keys are you are going to use, what partitioning you will be looking at, how you are going to query your data. So whether you should have a star schema and core data modeling foundational concept, those will be really useful for your longer journey. So again, you have to build a strong foundation. So all those Databricks resources which are available to you, you should go and try out, but keep these things in mind that more you learn around these basic foundational concepts, that will be very useful for you. Okay. Now, moving to the next one. Now, how you start with it. Now, there's an example, okay, but once you have begun your journey, started learning various things, you have learned various features, you should be looking at choosing a pet project. Now, the pet project could be anything where you can put your learning into the actual proof. Okay, so this could be your own, the personal trial where you're building some projects. You can showcase that this is the value you are building, because this is where you are able to apply your learning to the real example. Okay, real life business scenario. Now, in this case, I'm just showing a business case where a renewable energy company with the 10,000 of solar panels. Now, their data is in silos. The sensors are constantly giving the errors. So they want to have this maintenance reactive. It's a very costly reactive maintenance what they are having. It's costing like a 50,000 per month in downtime. So how you could address this problem from a data engineer slash data designer or architect perspective. So you may look at that, okay, the solution to build a lake house where you have this data coming from this number of sensors, the third party, the companies, and then you provide the data reliability so that your operation team, they should be able to get the right insight from it. Okay, not the traditional insight where they are looking for just the sales report. It's more of any operational issue happen in almost in near real time or in a batch way, they can always assess it and respond to it. So rather than being reactive or in a hindsight, not knowing about the information, this is the platform you would look at. So when you are building these, all the concepts which you have learned, that is the architecture you would be eventually started applying to it. So all the data what you are receiving, you may want to build you will be building a medallion architecture where you are ingesting your raw data, then you are increasing the value of the data by cleansing it, standardizing it, and aggregating this data. I spoke about the batch or streaming. Depending on the real-time use case, you may want to build your data pipelines with batch and streaming mode, and then the data qualities. So whether your data is the input attributes what you are getting, they are good enough or not. So you will be applying the data quality rules. You will be creating the dashboards for this problem. So the operation manager can look at those dashboards to see the health of their 10,000 solar panels, the census information which they are receiving. Or data governance, all the way, this architecture what you are building, who is having the access to what data sets, and not only the accesses, but also all the objects which you have created. So that all you can manage with the data governance. AI/BI Genie feature, which is a natural language processing where you can provide the end user the interface where they don't need to know SQL or anything. They can just ask the question. In the background, it is actually querying onto the data lake house which you have built. And the CI/CD, if it is new to this group, that's fine, but it is primarily whatever you have built, how you get this deployed into the production and number of times without any friction. Okay, and then the most latest one, which is in every time you're hearing, the machine learning of Gen AI. So any Gen AI solution you want to build on top of it, so that can be done, which can find trends on your data or predict that which sensor is perhaps gonna throw error. Yeah, so those kind of a model you could build on top of it. So this is whenever you are choosing a pet project, you can look at onto the web. There are a number of data sources available which you could use to see that what data you can utilize for your pet project. You don't need to try and go with applying all these architecture concepts listed here. There are a few of them you can try subsequently into your second project, third project, but some of these will be constantly covered in every data project which you will begin with. We already touched base on these. So when you are building these pet projects, the key skills which you are going to pick up on the engineering side, the medallion architecture, the pipeline, what you are building, the automation. We spoke about the software rigor, the code deployment practices that you are building using Databricks asset bundles. The data integrity, the governance and quality, we already spoke about that. And then the most important one from the business and business users is insight delivery. So the dashboards which you are building or the AI/BI interface you are providing, that's the operation manager they need. They would perhaps less care about what is the architecture of your lake house. They are looking at how they can get the value of it and how they can get the census error as soon as possible, or even the prediction upfront. Yeah, I think that is more onto the, or that was it primarily onto the practicing where you should go and what should you be your learning path. Here are some examples mock-up question. So if you are, after learning all of these, you are trying to look at the certification which you want to try. There are a number of questions and guides available on the web, but we'll just look at certain mock-up question and see how you would be perhaps approaching them. Now, when you have gone through the architecture, the medallion architecture, which we spoke about, so this is the question directly related to medallion architecture. As Bianca mentioned earlier, the question won't say that what is this feature. It wants to learn that if you have created the medallion architecture, which persona is going to use, which part of your architecture. So this question is about the data analyst. So where will you see the data analyst going and trying and accessing part of your medallion architecture? Yeah, that's the question. I don't think we are taking the answer, but you will be looking to attempt to understand that in the medallion architecture, you have the bronze, silver, and gold with in the order of the quality, data quality increasing. So gold is the final kind of a data product where you have the final data sets available for your end user. Now, in this case, the analysts are your end user. They would perhaps less care about how the data was ingested, what the quality was originally. They would like to create and query certain dashboards. So they will be looking at the code layer. That's the answer. So similarly, when you go to the other question, so this is more onto the Databricks architecture. So you would definitely need to understand that overall Databricks, how it is structured. It has a control plane, the data plane. That's a classic Databricks architecture you would see when you go through the documentation or those trainings which were mentioned for the academy. Now, in this particular question, it's looking for the control plane, the classic database architecture. So which component is hosted on the control plane? Now, the reason for this kind of a question to understand practically, because the underlying infrastructure which you are going to use, the cloud, you should be having a quite clarity around it, which component is running in which cloud, which component is running on your customer cloud versus the part which is running onto the Databricks side. So in this case, the answer for this is Databricks Web Application, which is nothing but the workspace interface which you see, and all the operations which you are doing through the Databricks Web Application that is hosted onto the Databricks control plane. I'll just go through maybe two more questions. So this question, which of the following data lake house features results in improved data quality over a traditional data lake? So if your people are from the traditional background of the data warehouse, and then they might have seen the evolution about the big data, where everyone started building the data lake, and why the data lake failed, okay, and what the Delta Lake started offering. So that's a core concept to understand that the background and the history about the database, the data lakes, and now the combined this lake house which we have. So the Delta Lake is offering you a governance layer on top of your data lake. And in this particular case, and with that governance layer, you are getting the database like ACID operation on it. Not going to explain that ACID operation. So when you read it, you will understand that all the atomicity, etc. you would require. That is what an offering from the Delta Lake. So answer for this one is B. Yeah. Now, if you're lucky, sometimes you get a very straightforward question into the exam. There will be some of these questions because they want to understand whether you get that background, why this works, Spark Cluster, or any of these features which are provided into the Databricks. So this one is very straightforward question asking about the autoloader functionality. So as an engineer guys, you may be building the file dropping and picking up by your pipeline. So autoloader is a functionality where you can schedule it, and every time, as and when the files are dropped, it will automatically pick up and start loading it incrementally in your subsequent tables. So under the hood, it is actually using Spark structured streaming. Okay, so this is if you know about the Databricks SQL or Unity catalog and checkpointing, I think with the elimination you would be able to attempt this anyway. I may go with the last question perhaps. Yeah. So like Bianca mentioned, some of these questions or most of these questions won't be straightforward questions. These will be more as a scenario question. Okay. Just to test you out that as a data engineer, when you started building the pipeline, you are trying to join the two tables and you may need to do certain intermediate data sets, okay, which is perhaps not required by the end user. So how you will be designing your pipeline. Now, there are a number of objects available into the warehouse when you are creating. You could create a SQL table, a view, a Delta table, or a temporary view. So how you would design based on the approach and the requirement of your engineering pipeline and the end user. So this question is literally testing you on those concepts, okay? Not just knowing that what kind of objects you could create, but it is also about why you would be using one over another. And in the real life, it is not like that if you have chosen a SQL table or Delta table or view, it is incorrect. It is more of which one is more efficient. This particular question, because you don't need, the question is clearly saying that the data engine wants to avoid copying and storing the physical data. So, and the efficient way of this particular problem will be using the temporary view. So temporary view, you are creating and using it. Yeah, I think that's answer. I think that is it from me, Bianca. I'll hand it over back to you.
Thank you. Let me share my screen. Okay, you should be able to see my screen now.
Yeah.
So, thank you, Raman, for explaining how to pass the certification and more of a practical guide. I want now to iterate what not to do. Let me leave you with some hard truths. If you spin run exams, you will just forget as fast. If you rely on doubts, you will actually freeze in real scenarios. If you skip the hands-on work, the gaps will show specifically in interviews and when you are going to put into a project to deliver the work. If you chase the volume over the depth, what I'm trying to say, take your time onto specifics, try to understand features, because otherwise you are going to build fragility. And here is the rule that I live by. If it feels too easy, you are probably not learning deeply enough. It's not meant to be an easy path to take certifications and to build the capability. So this is the formula. Certifications give you structure, hands-on give you the confidence, real constraints give you the maturity. Put those together and you are going to become trusted. And something that I'm going to say now, and probably you heard me, I haven't counted, but badges open doors, capability keeps them open. I want you to keep reminding this yourself. AI success is not about models, it's about systems people that trust. Data engineers are today AI stewards, and this is the role shift we are stepping into. We are not longer just pipeline builders, we are builders of trust, enablers of decisions, guardians of scale. AI success is not about the best model, it's about systems people can rely on. And that responsibility sits with us, even as data engineers. So thank you very much for your time today. This is the end of our session. I hope that you find the information that you needed to start onto this journey. I think we have one or two questions. It was in regards on how to contribute to the Databricks community. As a starting point, please go onto the data community website. In there is a global community. People like me and you are going in there, putting their challenges that they face day by day, and you can contribute by responding and providing solutions, guidance, and mentorship. Thank you very much. And this is the end of our session.
Thank you very much. And if you have any questions, I think you can obviously reach out to us through these channels which I mentioned. Thank you.